The way in which Jennifer Paxton was so brutally killed, this wasn't just a death. This was a long, drawn-out, torturous death. And then Sean Finnegan kept her body as a trophy. I mean, think about that. Who does that? Kept her body frozen as a trophy. The medical examiner in this case was excellent, and they did something really smart. They had a prop, they had a mannequin, and with every bit of harm that was done to her body, they noted that on the mannequin. So by the end of this case, you saw the marks all over that mannequin, and the jury could think about that as they were heading into their deliberations. And they'll still be thinking about it as they head into these new deliberations pertaining to the penalty. Let's go back together and watch some now.
Do you recall the specifics of her body's entry into the medical examiner's office and what specifically needed to be done before an autopsy could be conducted?
Yes, when she came, actually, we had to wait a couple of days to allow her body to actually thaw because it was frozen.
Okay. And how do you go about that?
So it's a slow process because it has to be, the individual has to be kept refrigerated. The number of wounds actually was too hard to count. There were multiple, and most of them appear to be what we call perimortem or postmortem. There was actually similar injury that involved the left ear, and that part of the ear was actually absent. So there were a couple of areas that appeared like that a cutout was so large and substantial that part of the skin and subcutaneous tissue was not present, was missing. However, with the decedent, we did have several pieces of small to medium sizes pieces of skin, subcutaneous tissue, and even a little bit of touch muscle that we could match to some of these sliced or incised injuries on the body. Then there is an interesting injury, and that is the nose. Now, this was actually different than many other incised injuries that I'll address on her body because it appeared to be postmortem. There is no vital reaction, and it's a very nice, precise cut through the cartilage. These two injuries were consistent, and they looked completely postmortem. Is with a freezer burn right in the middle of that wound, and that's actually one piece of skin that we did obtain with her body in the body pouch when she came to the office. Actually, there's kind of a slice cut out and came with it. There's a freezer burn in the middle, and then it's consistent with as her body was taken out of the freezer, that's where she was stuck, leaning to the left, stuck to the sides of the freezer, so had to be cut out in order to take her out. Actually, there was a cluster of those injuries that would be in this region. There is a teardrop-shaped area around the mid-chest, left of the midline. And these looked all post-mortem. So the chest looked mostly post-mortem. And then the left breast actually had, I think, the most interesting injury because unlike the rest of the injuries, had a pattern to it. What I mean by pattern, unlike, let's say, that left arm where there was like a geographic slice taken out, cut out, this particular area that involved the nipple and areola, it was actually almost like a stellate. And if one would look at the margins of the wound, it had almost like a pinwheel appearance. It was almost like multiple cuts were made around it, and then finally the slice taken out. So that was the left breast area. It was post-mortem. There's no circulation. There's no vital reaction, but there's a pattern to it. It looks like there was part of the skin with the areola nipple was cut out kind of on purpose, not just haphazardly. So forearm. And then the left hand actually had a kind of confluent bruising. Now, anything that is on the back of the hand, frequently in my reports, I would say that the forearms and hands are consistent with the defense injuries.
Did you come up to a conclusion with this case based on all of the injuries that you observed in the autopsy for the purposes of determining a cause of death in this case?
Yes.
And what was the cause of death of Jennifer Paxton?
Strangulation.
And what was the manner of death?
Homicide.
It is stunning just how sick this guy is sick and sinister. And by sick, I don't mean that mentally there's anything wrong with it. There was nothing here that the defense put forth in terms of an insanity defense. No, we're talking about just evil, cruel, despicable, low-life behavior. That's what we're talking about. I want to bring in my guest now. He is a very seasoned law enforcement expert, retired at the rank of deputy inspector with the NYPD, wrote the book Once a Cop. Our friend Corey Pegues on the program today. Corey, good morning to you. You know, I always love hearing your stories and the work you've done in the past, and I know you have seen an awful lot in your career. In terms of the severity and the cruelty and the barbaric nature of a case, where does this one with Sean Finnegan fit in what you've seen throughout the years?
Well, good morning. I'm so happy to be on with you this morning. So, the most heinous case I've ever seen, and we've talked about this, was where the guy cut his wife's head off and two of the kids' heads off. But as far as torture is concerned, this by far is the worst. But you know, while I'm sitting there and I'm watching the medical examiner go through all of these different injuries, what comes to mind is, Julie, right now, somewhere in the world, this is happening to somebody that we don't know about. It might be a court TV case 3-5 years from now. That's what's going through my mind, because there's some really sick individuals out here in the world. And I'm glad that you said that they didn't use a mental defense, because we always see that. They run right to mental defense. And I'm always saying, hey, they knew what they was doing before they went to court and got arrested. Don't claim mental disability now. Mm-hmm. This guy's a monster that was walking on the earth, and I'm just glad that we were able to lock him up, and very sad that that young lady had to go through that.
Oh, isn't that the truth, Corey? Yeah, just a monster. And, you know, one of the other things I always enjoyed talking with you about when you come on the program is how we can all be safer. You know, all of the good people who, you know, watch this program and want to live a safe, healthy life. You know, you see this guy in the courtroom, and you hear about what he did, and you think, well, he's got neighbors. Surely he was interacting with people in the community. He's going about his life. Anybody could have been living nearby and potentially have become a victim. What advice do you have for anybody, you know, wanting to stay safe when, you know, you never know what's going on inside the walls of a neighbor's home?
Well, let me tell you, growing up, I knew everybody on the block. You know, obviously this is like the 70s. I knew the Russians, I knew the Williamses, I knew the Campbells and all that. It's different now. So where I live, right, I know left, right, center. I know my neighbors. I take their garbage in the morning. As a matter of fact, this morning, the garbage was empty.
Aww.
I'm taking my neighbor's garbage, putting it back, you know, because some of them might
good
work.
Neighbor you
are. The luxury of being retired. So I take everybody garbage and put it in their yard. But, you know, you have to do something to try to know what your neighbors are doing. I'm watching all the time what the neighbors are doing. I don't know the whole block now, but I know 2 houses to the left, 2 houses to the right, the 2 or 3 houses across the street right in front of me. You have to get relationships, and they're all not good relationships. Sometimes they don't speak to me, but I'm watching at all times. You have to keep a keen eye on what's going on in your community. I mean, for this to happen to that young lady and no one said anything, no one even alerted the police till it was, you know, too late. You have to know what's going on in your neighborhood. I mean, that's just me. I'm nosy. I'm a nosy neighbor. So if I move next to you, I'm going to be in your business.
That's why you were such a great cop, Corey. It is. I mean, really. You know, a couple things for you. First of all, and I want to say this, and not just because we're friends, but because it's true. They are so lucky to have you as their neighbor. Like, anybody should be so lucky to have someone like you who is caring, is watching, and was a retired officer for so many years, a deputy inspector. I mean, like, I'd feel so safe, you know, having you next door, across the street.
And I'm telling
you know, be so glad I'd be trying to take your garbage out or bringing you a pie or something to eat. So, you know, that being said, they are lucky to have you. And I want to really zone in on something you said. You said, I'm watching. And I know you are. I wonder if, do you think that sometimes we get so busy in life, or we're too busy, you know, watching our phones, that we're not looking up, looking around and seeing if there's any peculiar behavior or creepy behavior from the people on the block?
Julie, you're absolutely right. You hit it on the nose. You know, right now in the world, everything is moving fast. You don't have no time. You don't have no time to do anything else with anyone else. You know, last night I'm watching the Democratic convention. Kamala's on, Joe Biden's on, I'm actually my 16-year-old son and my 11-year-old. Come and watch. This is history. That I want to see it. I make them like, no, put your phones down, get up here, sit down right now, you're going to watch this. But these are things that you have to do because no one wants to do anything with anyone else because the world is moving so fast. But you got to slow the world down because if you're going to live in these communities and neighborhoods, I want to know. I'm telling you, I'm a nosy neighbor. I want to know if somebody's taking the garbage out at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm looking out my window and I see it, once they go in the house, I'm probably going to go out to the garbage can and look, say, what the hell? They be like, why are you taking the garbage out at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Well, you hiding. Right. You're going to go old school, put the gloves on, you know, the old gumshoe detective work, right? Go there, what is in there? Yeah. No, I know. This is all great. You have to slow the world down, Julie. Yeah. You have to slow it down. And because everything is moving so fast, we have to know, especially in your area of operation, at least where you live. I'm not saying go to work and do this, but where you live and no one knows their neighbor, no one knows who's next door. I just had somebody move next door like 3 months ago. And I said, hey, I'm going to go to Home Depot and buy you a flower. I went and bought a flower just to break the ice. Just like, I don't really want to know her, but I need to know him a little bit. You need to know what's going on with her. Yeah, we want to make sure, yeah. She's a good, honest citizen, and you don't want any Sean Finnegans moving next door. Corey, I think we all ought to take your advice. That's it. Get to know your neighbors. You don't have to be friends with them, but know what you're dealing with. Know what you're working with, and anything peculiar. Trust your gut, right? Anything you see that doesn't feel right, like, yeah, maybe it isn't. Corey, stand by if you would kindly, please. So here's what we're getting word about. The judge has taken a brief recess after speaking with those 2 alternate jurors. And so we're going to be having the penalty phase kick off with opening statements. It's like a whole nother trial begins. They call these bifurcated trials, if you want to hear the fancy legal word that I never use, because we like things to be understandable on this show. I don't like when anybody talks over my head. So second part of the trial, part 2, kicks off. It's a recommendation, too. It's not the jury's decision. It's the recommendation to the judge. People get that wrong all the time. The judge is going to ultimately decide whether to impose their recommendation. But they'll say whether it's going to be life or death, in their opinion, as a recommendation for Sean Finnegan coming up next. Don't go away. This is Court TV Live. We are your front row seat to justice.